Hello and welcome. My name is Christine Weiser, and I'm the content director for Tech and Learning. So, we are here today to talk about what else? AI. We all know that artificial intelligence has had a seismic shift in education, which has completely changed the way teachers teach and students learn. And Tech and Learning also recently reported on the new executive order that came out that aims to better incorporate AI into the America's classrooms. So we can expect an even bigger focus on the use of this technology in schools. So today we're talking with Adeel Khan, who is a former principal and teacher and now founder and CEO of MagicSchool AI. I'm sure you've heard of them. They are one of the leading generative AI platforms from education. And he's going to share some advice for the meaningful implementation of AI in schools, how to address some of those continued concerns, and how he's seeing AI really driving student success. So, Adeel, welcome. Great to have you here. So, I wanted to get started. Big picture, getting your perspective on what you see as the biggest shifts in education since AI's widespread introduction.
Yeah, well, first, thanks for having me. Really excited to chat about this important conversation. And AI, as you mentioned, is kind of the topic du jour, and it seems to have been for the last 2 years. And the spectrum of how I've seen that conversation evolve. Obviously, there's a big evolution recently with the White House putting out an executive order around the importance of training students and teachers on AI, which is unprecedented, right? There's never been like a technology edict from the White House around a technology and encouraging its use in schools. While it's not a mandate, it is like quite an interesting signal for an industry that's never had something like this happen before. But also to your question of like how that conversation's evolved. Magic School launched in just actually it's tomorrow will be our 2 year anniversary. So we
Great.
launched in the world May 22nd of 2023, and I can share with you, it's like when we launched the product and the platform. Uh, the conversation was around banning AI. It was just completely not just for students, which was like very clearly happening at the moment. Like no one was letting students use it at that time, but even for teachers, we were talking to districts about why Magic School would be a safe option for teachers and why they would be able to use it. This is before like student use became a really a thing that we would even have people would be willing to have a conversation about. So the first hurdle was just getting it to getting schools and districts to understand that there are responsible use cases for educators in the classroom. Um, and obviously, like adults, we can trust a little bit more with AI. And that was the first wave of adoption, I'd say, in education was let's let educators explore this technology, understand it, use it for productive use cases in school, and trust their judgment to make the right ways of using it. And Magic School emerged out of that idea. And of course, we've introduced it to students now. Our student product's been live for over a year now as well, and we're exploring and seeing what responsible use for students looks like in schools now, and we're seeing a much larger appetite for that today than we did when we started the product. Where again, completely banned, no conversation around that. To actually, the reason we're partnering with you at Magic School is because you have a student product, and we want to make sure that our students are prepared for a future where using generative AI is going to be a superpower in their career. And we always harp on this idea of responsible usage. And there's going to be debate and exploration and learning about what does responsible usage look like. And I think there's a really nuanced answer to what that looks like in schools. Um, but I think we can all agree that we'd rather have students explore and learn about uh, and determine what responsible usage looks like alongside a trusted educator rather than on their own in what they're and a lot of students are doing right now where they're not being taught in schools or understanding how to use this in schools. They're discovering AI in apps like Snapchat that says my AI friend, or they're discovering it in apps like character.ai, which is AI acting like fictional characters they might be fans of. Like that's not the greatest introduction. I think we can all agree that's not the greatest introduction for a child to learn about generative AI. We'd much rather them learn about it in a space where the teacher can tell them how the systems work, actually touch and feel and use these systems and understand what they're good for, what they're not good for, how they can be harmful, how they can be helpful. And we think that starts in the classroom. And that's why we built our student product.
Perfect. I love it. So you are a former educator, so you touched on this a little bit, and we hear about the responsible use policies. They're coming. School districts are embracing it, which is great. So, as a former educator, could you provide some examples of how AI is really helping teachers teach and students learn?
Yeah, so one of the things I'll start on the teacher side, and then I'll jump into the student side. What we're seeing that educators are telling us about why they love Magic School and how they're using it. Certainly, there are these tasks that they do daily that Magic School can help automate and support things like leveling a text or rewriting it in a different language or summarizing something quickly, which are kind of the standard tools that teachers might use. Building a form document like a rubric. I know what I want the rubric to look like and I know exactly the assignment I'm building, but building that rubric can be a huge time suck, and I know that it's going to look pretty similar. And I generative AI is a great tool in building that first draft of the rubric that I can edit afterwards and make it my own, and saving me an abundance of time. So creating resources is a really powerful way. I also, when I was a history teacher, I got my set of standards from the state, and I didn't get any textbook materials or anything at my school building to be able to build some of those materials. So, I always joke that I would have to Frankenstein content from the internet together and find my own sources to like build the content that I teach to my students that was aligned to standards. And the ability to do that in the product is a lifesaver for folks who don't have really rich curriculums. So, we know this as educators that there are really rich curriculums in like science, math, and reading because those are state tested subjects. But then, like, sometimes the history teachers are left on an island. Sometimes the electives teachers are left on an island, and building resources are really challenging. So, in those spaces where resources, especially the academic resources, are lacking, Magic School is a really amazing supplement. And then on the student side, uh, this is where I talk about the nuance, what I was referring to when I say the nuanced way to use AI responsibly in schools. I was a history and English teacher, so I believe so deeply in the importance of writing and like students writing on their own without AI. It's like that's so important because writing is not just about creating a product and like having an essay. It's about formulating your thoughts. It's constructing your own opinions. Like when you're doing it, it's actually to some degree, it's like kind of flexing your brain muscle. And if we take that away from students, we that is a risk, right? We don't want them to write their essays with AI, which they might be doing on their own because they want to get an assignment done. I certainly am guilty of trying to, maybe copying a friend's homework in school to get something done. Like that's a normal instinct of a child. But in the classroom, there are really useful uses of AI. So instead of having the AI write the assignment or even write a first draft for you as a student, um, you should write the first draft. You should be doing the work of writing. And then at the end, when you've done your best first draft and you've given your all to that, AI coming in and giving you feedback on that writing is a new superpower of a teacher, right? So the students still done all the work, they've done all their thinking, and there is no teacher in the world. I taught 150 students when I was a high school English teacher. There's no way I could give really meaningful, formative feedback right in the moment to my students. Quite frankly, it would be really hard for me to do after they turned in their final draft and like actually getting it back to them maybe multiple weeks later because that's how long it would take to grade them all. We know that's not the best way for students to learn. Students learn when right after they've done something or just in time, they get feedback on what they've done. That's why high dosage tutoring is valuable. So I think that writing feedback tool on our platform is just like very, very clearly useful. It's like, okay, it gives you areas of strength and areas of growth and context of what you wrote. The teacher gets to prescribe the rubric that it's giving you the feedback based on. Usually that can be like, the state testing rubric. We have a classroom at Aurora Public Schools, one of the schools districts that we partner with, that saw a 28% improvement on their state literacy scores
Wow.
using that tool in a classroom, which makes like, those numbers are kind of shocking. Like it's hard to believe like, that you could have that much growth. But then when you actually like zoom in on, well, what if every student after they did their practice essay got feedback right away and improved that essay over the course of a year? Yeah, see pretty dramatic growth. That's never happened before in a classroom. So seeing never happened before, like academic achievement, should be possible if we're using these tools in really, really thoughtful ways. Um, and also, I think that there's risk with using AI. I think that having an always on, you never have to think, whenever you're struggling, you get an answer to something. I don't know that that's necessarily the greatest way to learn. Like, I, we talked about when I was a teacher, this idea of productive struggle. And we want kids to have productive struggle, to think a little bit harder, and not just have to go to an answer engine right away. So we trust teachers to think about when's the right time to use this, and when's it time for students to be doing the work completely on their own without AI. Um, and that's going to be something we learn as an education system now and in the future.
Yeah. That is a perfect segue into my next question, which is we hear a lot at Tech and Learning, just the professional development piece. So um, this this technology is just continually evolving all the time. So any advice to as to how teachers can stay current on the use of AI without feeling overwhelmed?
Yeah, I think we think about the way that schools and districts should approach learning about AI is with educators first. Have them try the tools. They could try Magic School, they could try ChatGPT, they could just learn about the different AI tools that are out there, explore their own usage of it. But like to be an AI transformed district, you have to have AI transformed educators, people who actually know how to use these tools. So we think starting with the educator is the way. We've actually heard that mirrored to us as well by districts. They're like, look, we love Magic School and we know you have a student product too, but like we're going to spend this first semester just using it with our teachers and training them and making sure they feel really comfortable with what to use it for and maybe what not to use it for. And then maybe in the second semester, we'll introduce it with students, but we don't want to risk using it with students without teachers feeling real comfort and understanding of this technology. And every school and district will be on their own spectrum of that development. Like, I think that we hear that a lot, but some people will be more apt to be like, hey, we live in a really progressive area and our parents are asking us for our students to be using AI in school. So maybe they'll launch it with students a little bit sooner than maybe a district that's has a different rollout plan. But we're kind of learning across geography, across type of school. The answer is a little different for everyone, but most everyone is in this idea is it's going to be really hard for you to use AI meaningfully with students if you don't know anything about AI yourself. So starting with tools like Magic School, learning those things, and understanding that there is like a spectrum of development for a person, I think is first. And then to your question of like not getting overwhelmed, uh, that's a really difficult question to answer because there are so many new things coming out all the time. And I think that like using and trying is important and recognizing a lot of the things that you've been doing in the classroom already are still really valuable. Like I said, doing a timed writing in your class where your students are doing the thinking, that's just as valuable, might be even more valuable as AI proliferates in the world, that you're having students do collaborative work that's, with their peers, having students share their authentic voice and who they are through their writing. Those things are still valuable in a world with generative AI. So I think that try it, but don't be overwhelmed by it, and don't feel like if you're missing the boat if you're not super at the latest and greatest of the technology. Um, but rather like use it intentionally and find interesting use cases. And I think that when teachers aren't forced to do things but rather see the utility and then incorporate that in their teaching, that's like the best way for this to happen. uh, if you've worked in a school building like I have, you've seen so many like forced initiatives from a district level. I was one of those people who forced an initiative, right? And like teachers already have so much on their plate. It's hard to just do one more thing. So trying to have it be natural and fit in where it fits in and into your existing priorities, and then imagine what a future is a pragmatic approach that anyone can take, I think.
That's perfect. So just really where can don't feel like you have to know everything and but just where can AI be your partner in a way in the classroom that can help streamline efforts like
Yeah.
creating lesson plans, things
And
like that.
center it on the things the problems you're trying to solve. So if your school district has a challenge with literacy, maybe incorporating the writing feedback tool in your classrooms this year is going to be a really powerful way to meet your goal of a 10-point improvement in literacy scores year over year, which is what you've set for your district. Now that's aligned to what you already wanted to do. We're not asking you to say you must do everything with AI now. It's like, nope, you had this priority, and AI has a specific capability that might help align to your priority and your goals. That is natural. That is the way to use it. AI for AI's sake, I am very against. And I think it's uh, when it's used really intentionally and thoughtfully, that's where we see the greatest usage. And obviously, like we're a mission driven company. We want this to impact the lives of educators and students, aligned to educational outcomes, which is what the business of a school district is helping their students grow and achieve their dreams.
Absolutely. So, despite all of this, and we are seeing, of course, more adoption, but we are still hearing some concerns from parents, staff. Any advice to school district leaders to help address some of these concerns?
I think that it's important. We've seen a lot of our district partners have parent nights around AI. We even provide like kind of some materials that they might use to explain like generative AI in schools, how we're using it, why we're using it with students. So bringing families into those conversations and showing them and sharing with them a strategy that is really clear inspires confidence. So what we've seen is that parents get really quickly on board when they're like, "Oh, this is like my school district is really thinking hard about this technology that I'm hearing about all over the news that it's going to transform the world, and they're preparing my child for a future that AI is going to proliferate." That inspires confidence in me. It's like okay, and their strategy seems nuanced and thoughtful. They put time into it. That's what parents and families want to hear. I actually was speaking to a parent at a local school district in Florida, and she'd found out about Magic School and what we do as a company and AI in schools, and she was like, I wish my district had like a strategy of what they were doing because my kids, I want them to be prepared for a future and I want them to be thinking about these real challenges now. And I think that that's what families want. The most sacred commitment that a school district or a school or when I was a principal, I had to my families is I'm preparing your child for the future. That's what I was promising families who walk through my school building's doors. And that requires now schools and districts to think about what is our strategy? How are we approaching this? I think that families and schools don't need all the answers right now, but they need to be thinking about what their strategy is, and I think families are going to start demanding that more and more as this technology becomes even more widely available and used in daily life.
Great. I think that's an excellent answer. Thank you so much. And final question, little peek into the future.
Yeah.
Um, Thoughts on where you see the use of AI in classrooms headed in the coming years, even just the coming year,
Yeah,
singular.
yeah. I think we see a lot more responsible, I mean, thoughtful usage of AI with students. I think that teachers are starting to become a little bit more open to the idea that AI can be helpful to students and not just replace their thinking. So I get excited about really creative uses that teachers come up with the tools that we provide and others do as well. Um, I also one of my bold predictions for the future is that we just saw Google release a new VO video model yesterday, actually, and these video models are extraordinary. And the one that was launched yesterday actually allows audio too, so you can
Mm.
like voices of characters. Not only do you have like ultra realistic video that you can create, now it has audio and voices and can like really create like the beginnings of what maybe a film would be. So I said this, 2 years ago, and I say it as one of my bold predictions of the future for AI is that there'll be a 13-year-old kid in school who makes like a feature film that we watch in the theaters in the next 5 years. And there's so many new creative dimensions that students have that they'll have access to as builders. So like, now a student is a movie director at 13. And that to me, why that's not crazy is because who's the most creative and imaginative people in the world? Kids in school. So why wouldn't they create a movie? But
Yeah.
also, if you think about the ability to, this new movement of like vibe coding, where you can like kind of build your own app with natural language. So maybe the next $1 million business is built in a high school or a school building because the student can like visualize something, really explain what they want it to do, and then actually have it manifest with these new kind of coding tools. So I see a future where students are much more empowered to build authentic things in school that they can actually show to the world. And I think that's a really inspiring vision for the future and a really like a much more engaging school experience. So we're certainly building things that will help students lean into themselves as builders, and and we're really excited about what that looks like and how school becomes more engaging as a result.
That's great. Everything you described, that's all higher order thinking skills. right? It's not just plug something into the AI device and make a movie. So I love that. Thank you so much. And obviously, Magic School is one of the leaders in this industry. Do you have any resources to share with our audience if they want more information?
Yeah, for the folks who've never used Magic School, you can just go to magicschool.ai. There's a free version of the platform that is extremely robust, and I think that if you're someone who is, looking to get started somewhere, Magic School is a phenomenal place to get started. And then there's also the student product that as you get dexterity with it, you can join. All of it's available for free, so you can just dive right in and see the power of this tech in context of your work. So magicschool.ai is a great place to start. It takes 10 seconds to sign up, and you're off and running.
Excellent. Well, I'm excited to see more about your journey. So thank you, Adeel, for your time today, and and we look forward to learning more in the future. Take
Awesome.
care.
Thank you, Christine.
Thanks.